IGN posted this and it sent the internet ablaze. I'm getting bored with every PlayStation game telling the same story. Oh, okay. So now IGN, after everyone for the past decade plus has been saying the very same thing, they finally have a quote unquote journal over there that's going to jump into the majority of what people have been saying and join in. Is that what we're doing right now, IGN? Because oh my God. This comes to us from Simon Carty, who I am not familiar with. Now, I got to tell you guys, where the story is coming from is 1,000,000% and nothing other than Ghost of Yōtei. This is IGN trying to be cordial to Sucker Punch while also saying, we don't want your game.
I'm a huge fan of PlayStation's first-party offerings. They've come to embody the sort of cinematic adventures I've always looked for when sitting down with a controller in my hand, feeling like genuine blockbuster events meant to be savoured. But where in the past this brand of glossy storytelling felt like new ground being trodden, I can't help but feel that recently it's become the well-worn road.
It has. Welcome. First time? What are we doing here? What? Of course, this is the problem. The exact reason why Horizon Forbidden West failed. It was a bland story, forgettable characters, a boring game overall. Following up on what I would argue was a decent game. Decent. But they thought they could just double down with the same exact thing and be like, oh, you want more? Have more of it. Kind of like Ghost of Yōtei. Weird.
It's not just that all of PlayStation's major releases adhere to the now trademark third-person cinematic.
And good point, by the way, Skeg. Girl boss. Look, Erika Ishii's even exhausted. Look at her eyes right now. She's tired of girl bosses.
It's the stable of developers has become seemingly obsessed with stories that explore the exact same
Man, they're even dragging Death Stranding into this.
Themes, grief and revenge. And I'm starting to get a little tired of it.
Don't you dare talk shit about Tsushima, bro. This game broke ground, all right? This didn't feel like other games. That's not fair. Come on. If you're going to say this was the original and then other games came out after it copying it, then okay. But keep this shit out of this video. This does not belong in here.
As a rule, these games are all impeccably well made, but I'm starting to miss that era when PlayStation's range felt wider.
You know what it is? This is them admitting that they've been wrong the whole time without being like, the chuds were right. This is them trying to cope and take a different perspective. Like, oh, I'm tired of what they keep putting out there. As opposed of, stop putting woke people into these games. They're unoriginal, untalented, and it's the same slop every time. It's the same thing we've been saying since day one.
And things were a little bit more fun.
Oh, mods, who is this guy? Boot this guy? Who said Tsushima is not that good? Stop it. Get out of here. Come on. You're trolling. Time out, Paulie, for 10 seconds.
The realization that so many PlayStation games have explored the same grim story themes struck me when playing through Sucker Punch's new Ghost of Yōtei. While I thoroughly enjoyed it and had...
What I say? This is 1,000,000% centered on Yōtei. Yep.
Admire its consistently exciting approach to combat and genuine sense of discovery it creates for exploration, I couldn't help but feel I'd been...
Okay, so if you really feel that way, that you genuinely feel that there is a genuine sense of discovery, you would not feel this way. That is a lie. That's a lie. That's cope. You're like, oh, there's a genuine sense of discovery. No, it's not. Because if it's the same as everything else, there wouldn't be a genuine sense of discovery. That's cope.
Told its story before. As Atsu, you're tasked with avenging the death of your parents on a blood-soaked journey across 17th century Japan as you hunt down each of the Yōtei 6. Not only is this tale unfortunately close to the plot of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I also played to completion earlier this year, but it's the same combination of fiery revenge arc crossed with meditations on what it is to grieve that has become something of a hallmark for PlayStation Studios in recent years.
I'm sorry. It came to this, little wolf.
2019's The Last of Us Part 2 is an obvious trailblazer. with Ellie's dark descent into a rage-filled embodiment of revenge coming as a result of the death of her father figure, Joel. That, of course,
Last of Us 2 is such a weird game for me, because when I played through it, I genuinely enjoyed the game. But in hindsight, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I almost feel like I was under a trance, like, just, oh God, word choice. I feel like I was just like hypnotized, where it's just like, oh yeah, okay, this is a game playing through it. Okay, it's genuinely fun game. Okay, great. Now that my world has opened up, my eyes are wide open and I see it for what it is. I am like genuinely upset that Neil Druckmann decided to go the direction they did with it. Now I get it. I was the one. I'll admit I was wrong. I was the one that was behind, where I'm like, no, guys, it's a fun game. It's like, yeah, it was a fun game. But the storyline destroyed the franchise trying to be artsy fartsy instead of just doing what you should have done with the game, what everyone wanted. Same problem Yōtei did. Not making that mistake again.
was the sequel to the 2013 original that explored how Joel struggled to cope with the death of his own daughter. At the time, The Last of Us was seen as fueling a wave of sad dad.
Guys, Last of Us, still one of the greatest games I've ever played in my whole life. It's so fucking good. I think the problem with Last of Us Part 2 is no one ever wants to even play Last of Us 1 because of the negativity with Last of Us 2. And I don't want that to happen with Tsushima because of Yōtei. I'll just play the first ones of these series and you'll love it. It's great. Just don't keep going with them. That's all.
Games, including 2018's God of War. But in hindsight, these were just the building blocks for PlayStation's preoccupation with grief.
Find your way home. You are free.
2022's God of War Ragnarok is a story fueled by the loss of mothers and sons and the anger that comes with them. Insomniac's
I think they tried too hard to be artsy fartsy and they forgot about the game.
Spider-Man
They tried to be a movie, you know?
series follows both Peter Parker and Miles Morales as they attempt to overcome supervillain threats as well as wrestle with their demons stemming from dead parental figures.
She never thought about herself, even when she was struggling to breathe.
2020's Returnal is a looping sci-fi nightmare born out of the protagonist Celine's familial grief-related
I have not played Returnal. I heard really good things about it, by the way. I've not played it.
trauma. And then there's 2025's other big PlayStation exclusive, Death Stranding 2.
Hypnotic played this. He said it was awesome, which makes me really want to get into the Death Stranding franchise. But my goodness, there's a time sink on that.
On the beach, which may not technically be a first-party game, but certainly is a verifiable feast of maternal and paternal anguish. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of all the games.
Sergeant Sapient, that's a really interesting point you make there. If you know a series is going to tank, is it worth investing emotionally in it when it's great? The first thing that comes to mind for me is like the series Lost, because so many people hate how Lost ended. I personally do not hate how Lost ended. I loved it. I was like, it was great the whole way through. Do I think it kind of ended on a lower note than the rest of the series? Yes, I do. But bad? No. I know people said Sopranos nosedived. I just feel like in the moment, people were expecting Lost to somehow deliver this amazing ending. It's like, dude, you can't, it's impossible. Game of Thrones. Thank you. That's the one I was thinking of. Game of Thrones. Where it's like, I did not watch the final seasons of Game of Thrones because my kids started being born, and that's definitely not a series you can watch around kids. So we stopped watching it. But I've heard that kind of went down at the Red Wedding or whatever people say. But that's a common trend with a lot of shows and series and games and everything. But should you not play the beginning because people say it gets bad afterwards? No, still play. It's still worth playing the first part of it. It's kind of like The ultimate, and I'll get back to the video now, but the ultimate movie that did that, where they had us in the first half, not gonna lie, one of the greatest movies of all time, and also one of the worst movies of all time, depending on which half you're talking about, is Langoliers. The first half of Langoliers is cinema. It's amazing. I loved Langoliers. If you stopped watching Langoliers at around like 65 or 70% of the way through the movie, you would be like, Langoliers is the best movie ever. The last 30% falls apart so bad that you're like, why the hell did I even watch this movie? Anyways.
Listed above, each singular in its depictions of characters and each offering wildly different gameplay experiences. But when viewed as a whole, it's easy to hear that their stories are all being sung from the same hymn sheet. Familial grief is at the center of all of these stories, and while I certainly feel that mature themes have a place in games, it is all starting to feel like I'm getting hit around the head with the same ideas at this point. The cycle of violence is in very real danger of becoming a loop of diminishing returns.
You gutted my father.
He defied Lord Saito.
Then you tried to burn me alive.
Okay, this right here just sold me on never playing the game. This is so bad.
Of course, it's true that not every PS5 game follows this pattern. Astrobot isn't an exploration of generational trauma in deep space, but you catch my drift, with its joy and colour standing out from the otherwise morose crowd. It felt like a rarity, but it never used to be this way. The PS3 gave us Naughty Dog's Uncharted era, which, although it eventually ventured into more melancholic territory in A Thief's End,
the Uncharted games, I challenge anyone to try to differentiate Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 4. Like what is different? They're all the fucking same game to me. Every single one of them.
firmly planted its flag in themes of adventure with a tone ripped from the pages of Pulp Fiction. I've always had a soft spot for Insomniac's Resistance and its World War II/sci-fi warfare mashup, as well as Little Big Planet, which, all the way at the other end of the tonal spectrum, celebrated creativity and community.
Welcome to Buncombe Chummy Chum Chum, where the sky is strewn with circling clouds of imagination.
Yes, these games all contain varying levels of character nuances, but were all fundamentally about different things. Treasure hunting, alien invasions, and personal expression. They weren't all trying to serve the same story.
By the way, I know we're kind of knocking IGN a lot here. This is. I mean, they're right. I'm not adding anything because I'm like, yeah, he's right. Yep.
And I can't help but feel that if a new Jak and Daxter game were to come out today, it would be about an Otzel's thirst for revenge against the killers of his blonde-haired friend.
Hang on, Dax. It's gonna be close.
I hope that future
Guarantee you they'd add a girl into it and make her a main character and try to have you play as her. And it'd be Jak and Daxter and Shelly.
PlayStation exclusives can look to this more varied, interesting past for inspiration, even when choosing to tackle more serious subject matters. Team Ico's PS2 classic Shadow of the Colossus took on a mournful tone, but
I never played Shadow of the Colossus. I played Ico, loved it. I have Shadow of the Colossus, and I've always meant to play it. Heard great things about it.
Truly unique and poignant with
Jackie and Daxter. Holy shit.
in it, at a time when such ideas were far less common in games.
All right, you take that back right now, Tanya. Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the greatest games I've ever played. Easily in my top 25. Easily.
It stands as a unique masterpiece to this day, telling its tale through vagaries and minimal cutscenes, a far cry from the trademark cinematic style we now expect of PlayStation games. What we didn't have back in the mid-2000s were 5 more PS2 releases that took its exact contemplations on love and loss and told the same story in a different wrapping. Every time you played something new from Sony Studios on the now 25-year-old console, it felt like a brand new experiment with a different story to tell, not just a variation on a theme.
You know what it is? I'm going to break it down. This 10-minute video that this guy wrote here and is reciting. The answer to the problem, you ready? Money. Actually, sorry, 2 words, not just money. Money and risk. It costs too much money to make a game right now, to take a risk, to go a different direction. So that's why every single game feels samey. That's why every story is safe, because they want to make sure that it appeals to the masses so they don't piss off any kind of demographic, to make sure it appeals to everybody to sell the most amount of copies. That's the answer to all of this, by the way. That's the TLDR on what's going on.
That brings me back to Ghost of Yōtei, a game that is superior to its predecessor in almost every aspect, barring its central story.
My name is Atsu.
While I connect to Atsu more than I ever did Jin Sakai, she's a much warmer presence to spend a few dozen hours with.
Okay, first off, I was like one with Jin Sakai. So does this guy have like low T or something? Like, what? You didn't connect with Jin? Bro, what?
Ghost of Tsushima's narrative explores different, fresher ground. The story balances the personal struggles of Jin against the backdrop of an invasion of a nation, with themes of honor, betrayal, and belonging striking a chord and making it stand out when it arrived hot on the heels of The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, before grief seemingly took hold of every Sony storyteller. Perhaps PlayStation's interest in grief is a reflection of the state of the world, though. When viewed through the lens of when PS5 exclusives like Ghost of Yōtei and Death Stranding were being written, that melancholy is somewhat understandable. The COVID pandemic inarguably took hold of our planet in the years 2020 and 2021. And as such, themes surrounding unexpected loss and mass trauma would no doubt have been at the forefront of many minds. It will therefore be intriguing to see if this pattern will continue much further then, now that the world has somewhat settled back into what it looked like beforehand.
It is finally returning to normal. What do you mean somewhat settled? What? Let's cope. No, I actually don't disagree. I think COVID might have something to do with it. I feel like a lot of companies all had a very same vibe at that time, where they're all feeling the same pressures of the world and they all wanted to express themselves the same way. So I actually don't disagree with the IGN on this. Like, I do think that COVID had a lot to do with it, to be honest.
Will the stories being told in projects that began production post-2022 mirror a different state of the planet, or continue to look inside ourselves at our darkest moments? These are, of course...
I mean, this is, by the way, I don't want to oversimplify it. Like, COVID had a lot to do with it, but because of the people that were working at the studios were very single-minded people. Let's be clear about this.
all valid tales to tell, and I'm a huge proponent of art being reflections of those creating it. But I can't help but wish for a little more variety going forward.
I will find every last member of the Yōtei Six. And I will bring you peace.
There's a reason to be hopeful and skeptical, considering what Sony has coming up next. Insomniac's Wolverine looks to be delivering on
Sweet Baby Inks Wolverine, go on.
all of the gore and decapitation you'd hope to see. But will that mature rating be reflected in its themes?
Death's always waiting.
Logan is certainly a character
I mean,
consumed
like,
by
again, it looks good. It does look good.
lust for revenge. Will that see us taken down a familiar path of burying past demons through ultraviolence? Or will we get an altogether different story that taps into a different part of his psyche? James Mangold's Logan already told us a tale that would have slotted nicely into PlayStation's sad dad canon, as X-23 tapped into the softer side of his adamantium body. So I do hope we don't just get a rerun of that idea here.
Spoiler, you will.
We also know that Saros is on the way from Housemarque in March, and it certainly looked impressive in the most recent State of Play stream. As for Naughty Dog, the ground zero of this long-running era...
Oh man, this is the next Yōtei right here. This one right here. This is the next Assassin's Creed Shadows. People are wondering what the next big one is. This is the one that everyone's gonna be wondering how people react to it. This right here. I called that the first time I covered this game, the Heretic Prophet. I'm like, oh boy, I can't wait to see the numbers this does.
Of grief, we know that the studio will be taking on the sci-fi realm next with Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Its first trailer was promising, delivering a more fun-filled tone than we'd ever dream of seeing from The Last of Us. Of course, we've barely scratched the surface here, but it would be fantastic to see Naughty Dog rediscovering some of that Uncharted levity here. Both of these upcoming PS5 games, incidentally, are stories about people investigating lost off-world colonies.
I gotta be honest, it's Tati Gabrielle and Erika Ishii strike me as like the same person. Like they're one for one.
I hope for my sake that they find wildly different stories to tell on each of them, rather than discover reminders of the grief they've left behind.
But after every death, I always come back stronger.
For more on Ghost of Yōtei, make sure to check out our review, and for everything else, keep it locked to IGN.
Girl boss, baby. Let's fucking go. So Savvy says, pour one out for the writers, homies. I wonder if he or she will have a job in the morrow. This happens when boards control creativity. It isn't even about DEI at that point. The games are following a safe formula because companies have an obligation to make money for shareholders. And this discourages risk taking, which is basically what I was just saying. So they max out ESG in case of failure, but higher ups also don't want to hear about problems. So it makes a feedback loop. I hate this and I wish for it to change. And no, indie is not your salvation, thanks to IGDA and other scammy groups trying to control indie. Very well said by Savvy as well. But yeah, as far as my overall thoughts with this IGN saying getting bored with every PlayStation game telling the same story, I don't disagree with them. But then again, this is the same thing we've been saying for the past decade plus. And the problem is that's when you enter wokeness into the equation with games, it's the same storyline. Safe, girl boss, tragedy of loss, and then redemption from it. Every single time. I'm like, bro, we get it. Tragedy. Oh my God. Yes. Do something different. Can you not have tragedy? No, of course you can have tragedy, but like expand beyond that. I feel like the tropes they fall into are so basic. And you know what it really comes down to at the end of the day, as we've talked about many times on this channel before? The writers for these games are often the same writers for the other games. It's just a fucking circle jerk of the same people going around getting fired, laid off, and just hired by these other companies to do it all over again somewhere else. Bring in some new talent, some new voices, actual diversity, and then you'll get a different story. Until that happens, it's just going to still keep happening. But anyways, I'll leave that one there.